So, why are trees important? Trees actually matter a lot, not only to the environment, but to humans. And they actually save us money as well as increase values. For example, homes located next to vacant land decrease by a value of 18%, while planting trees increases their value by 19%. New tree plantings increase surrounding houses' value by 10%. Trees make our neighborhoods and streets safer, and trees and shrubs planted in the road right-of-way reduce the speed of vehicles, which also reduces the occurrence of accidents. Trees not only produce oxygen that we breathe, but they clean our air of toxins. They provide shade for us to cool off, and it cools our house, which reduces our energy bills in the summer. And they provide food and recreation, not to mention products like wood and paper. Studies have shown that trees help reduce stress and anxiety, and they help people get the daily physical activity that needed. People who use park and open spaces of trees are 3 times more likely to achieve recommended levels of physical activity than non-users. Trees also help keep our water clean. They reduce soil erosion and sediment runoff into bodies of water for up to 75%, and reduce and filter chemicals like fertilizers and pesticides from runoff by 50% or more. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, proper placement of just 3 trees can save an average household between $100 and $250 in energy costs per year. Evergreen trees planted in the north and west of a home break up and redirect cold winter winds. This can save homeowners up to 15% on their energy bills in the winter and reduce wind speeds up to 50%. Trees planted on the west and east sides of home directly shade the home from morning and afternoon sun and reduce the heat absorbed through the roof, windows, and walls of a home. By planting trees to shade air conditioners, energy efficiency can improve up to 10%, and homeowners can save up to 30% on summer cooling energy. Many things cause trees to become stressed or damaged, including insects, diseases, weather, wind, soil conditions, pollution, man-made structures like sidewalks, and even salt from de-icing our roads during winter. So as you're looking at trees, there are several things to look for to see if the tree might have a disease or be stressed. Look for decay. This is usually found on the trunks or branches and it appears as rotting wood. Dieback happens within the tree crown, and you look for branches that have lost their leaves, as you can see in the picture in this slide. Wilting. Leaves may still be attached to the tree but are visibly wilted or turning down. Early leaf drop. A significant amount of falling or dropping leaves during the spring or summer may indicate that the tree is stressed. If you remember the derecho that happened in August of last year, a lot of the trees lost their leaves after, and it was because the trees were damaged and stressed. And another thing you can look for is early fall coloration, and that is another thing that the derecho caused in August was a lot of the leaves turned color way too soon in the season. Usually we don't see that until late September, October, but the derecho happened early August and we were already seeing leaves turn color. Insects can cause significant stress and damage to trees, especially invasive insects. An invasive species is a non-native species that has a negative impact on the environment it is in. They usually travel to new areas on shipping containers or are brought to new places on purpose by people. One invasive species in Iowa City that has to be dealt with is the emerald ash borer. But don't be fooled by how pretty this metallic green insect is. It is actually devastating to our ash tree population. This invasive beetle is from Asia and has destroyed millions of ash trees in the United States since it was discovered in 2002. Iowa City is currently treating their ash trees as well as cutting them down if the insect has damaged them too much. Some signs as an ash tree has been affected by the emerald ash borer include crown dieback, thinning and yellowing leaves, shoots growing from the trunk or suckers from the bottom of the trunk, exit holes shaped like an upper D, as you can see in the picture on the right. And then these exit holes are found on the bark, and they're caused by the adult beetles chewing their way out from under the bark. When these signs are visible, then that means the tree is already too damaged, and we need to take action. So I mentioned shoots and suckers on the last slide, but what are they? So as you can see in this picture, shoots grow from the trunk and suckers from the bottom. So they look pretty similar, but they're not because of their location. There's also something called water sprouts, as you can see from the picture, that grow straight up from the branches. And all of these are indicators that something is wrong with the tree. And other hazards to look out for, especially we saw a lot of this after the derecho, and there still are trees like this. When you're exploring come better weather, look for dead branches and look for broken branches, because on a windy day, those can come down. So just be careful and aware of your surroundings. Another insect that causes a lot of damage to trees is called the gypsy moth. And the gypsy moth is another invasive species, and their larvae feed on several hundred species of plants, but they prefer oak trees. They feed on their leaves in the late spring and early summer, and after several years of defoliation, the trees decline, and they'll eventually be killed off, or they'll make them susceptible to other diseases and insects. Burr Oak Blight is another issue that oak trees have to deal with. It is caused by a fungus. And Burr Oak Blight is a leaf blight, so that the leaves start turning brown, as you can see in the picture. And these fungus that infect the tree, the spores spread the diseases to new leaves in the spring, and rainfall can also spread the fungus to new trees or to new leaves on the bur oak. Dutch elm disease is caused by a fungi, different than the Burr Oak Blight one, and this fungi clogs the water conducting vessels in these trees, causing leaf wilt and eventually death. The fungi are carried by the elm bark beetle, and Dutch elm disease can be managed in several ways, and many nurseries are now cultivating Dutch elm disease resistant hybrid elms, and it is important to note that in order to create a healthy urban forest, planting many different species is necessary. So having just maple trees or just elm trees in your yard is not a good idea. What you would want to do is have a maple tree and an elm tree and an oak tree, a bunch of different ones. Diversity is very important. So, tree biology. Trees have root systems and they have three primary functions. They provide support by finding oxygen, water, and nutrients that the tree needs in order to grow. Larger roots provide support and storage. The storage of carbohydrates, also known as sugars, is important during times of stress, such as droughts. Absorbing and moving nutrients and water is taken on by the smaller roots. Trunks include many layers, including the outside layer, known as bark. Bark protects trees from physical injury, disease, insects, and weather. The stems are where the leaves and flowers are formed. And leaves are the food factories for the trees. Through photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water, with the help of sunlight, are transformed into sugars and used for food by the trees. A vital byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen, which we need to breathe. Deciduous trees lose their leaves in the fall. These are mostly broadleaf trees, but some broadleaf trees and shrubs keep their leaves in the winter, such as holly and boxwood. Conifers are trees that are cone-bearing and have needle-like or scale-like leaves. These are mostly evergreen trees that keep their leaves year-round, but some conifers are deciduous, such as cypress and dawn redwood trees. A tree's leaf may be the simple or it may be of many leaflets. They may look like the same leaf all around the stem, or they may vary in shape and size on the same tree. They can be one of the easiest ways to identify a tree, but first you need to verify that what you're looking at is the whole leaf and compare it to the other leaves on the tree. Identifying where the leaf buds are is the best way to start identifying trees from their leaves. As you can see, there's different leaf shapes, as in the picture to the left, and these shapes are very important. Oak trees, down at the bottom you can see a pin oak, are very similar in shape. All of their leaves have like huge dips like this, but they're still varied from oak to oak. Identifying where leaves attach to the branches is another important consideration for identifying a tree. Look for whether leaves are opposite of each other, alternate along the stem, or are whorled around the stem. So, as you can see in these pictures, this is what the three different leaf arrangements you should be looking for when you're looking at a stem in the leaves, trying to decide what type of tree it is. Here's another picture. As you can see, I mentioned that the oaks are similar with their dips, but they still look different. On simple opposite, you can see two different maples, and while their general shape is similar, they're still different. So they're maples, both of them. They're just two different types of maples. So keep that in mind when you're also trying to identify trees, is maples and oaks are very similar in their leaves. They're just slightly different, so you can get more specific type of tree. Another thing to look for are leaf margins. The edges or margins of a leaf give you an important clue. Are they smooth? Are they serrated like a knife? Or are they lobed? Each of these descriptions can help you find your way through identification key. And you can see the American elm is toothed, also known as serrated, so it's kind of spiky. And then you got the pointed pin oak and the smooth white oak. But although the pin oak and white oak are two different oaks, you can see that they have those dips in them, but their actual leaf edges look very different. So, leaf tips. That's another thing that you should be looking for when you're looking at the leaves. The tips of the leaf can take various shapes, such as rounded, pointed, and indented. And if you remember on the last slide, we had two different oaks, and one was pointed and one was more rounded. Leaf bases are really important and can help identify a tree. There's various shapes depending on the tree. You can see that there's rounded and lobed, and there's some that are vertical perfectly and some that are kind of slanted. Eastern white pines are really unique. They have a longer pine cone with thin scales compared to other pine trees. Their needles are also clustered together in groups of 5, which it's hard to see in this picture, but if you looked up close, you would see the needles grouped in 5, and you can just pluck those 5 off together and they'd still be attached. That's kind of a good indication what kind of pine tree you're looking at. Ginkgos are really unique. They have this cool fan-shaped leaf, and the veins like to fan out from the leaf base. There are 1 and 2 notches forming on the lobes, depending on the tree, and along the margin or the edge of the leaf, and most attached to short spur-like branches. The leaves are opposite from each other on shagbark hickory trees. The husk on the nut is thick or splitting completely when dried to release the nut. The bark on these trees are long, peeling, and shaggy, which is most notable on older trees. These trees have leaves that are rough on top, and the female trees have red or purple fruit. And they're edible, but don't eat them without taking them home and washing them first, and verifying that that is indeed a red maple, because not all fruit-bearing trees are edible to humans. The nut on black walnut trees is spherical and round, and the bark on these trees is a dark brown to black and chocolate brown when it is cut or broken. This is considered one of the most valuable trees today because of the delicious nuts and the fine furniture that is also made out of it. Weeping willows is one of my personal favorite trees. They're just really unique, and I think they're really pretty. They're easily recognized by their droopy shape, and the trees have long, slender, drooping branches. They're usually found near bodies of water, whether it's a little pond or a lake or in a wetland, but they can, like this picture, be found in someone's backyard. Make sure you check out the supplemental material. There are a lot of great videos, activities, and identification resources included in the PDF attachment. As always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. There are also some really great apps that help you identify trees. So if you have a smartphone, or if your parent or guardian has a smartphone and you guys want to go out looking for trees, you can download apps like iNaturalist, and they are really good at identifying trees.